I got a theological conundrum that's been bothering me, and you're gonna hear about it. First off, where did the soul of John the Baptist come from? John the Baptist was a very specific man that God needed to live at a very specific period of time. He had to be related to Jesus, but not be in the same family as Jesus. A very specific person. Jesus even said that John the Baptist was the greatest man who ever lived. No man has lived that is greater than John the Baptist. John the Baptist's existence was so mandatory even that he was born into a family by a mother who was past childbearing years, if you get me. That means John the Baptist was not a case of redemption. He was not a man that had been brought about by the causes of man, that God had adopted into his family after redeeming him from the sins or coincidences that led to his existence. And now it's time to talk about the Apocrypha. There is a passage in the Apocrypha, I can't remember what chapter, but it seems very canonical with the gospel. See, there was a prophet who was talking to God about the end times and about the redemption cycle, and he was trying to get God to tell him about the Messiah. But his time hadn't come yet, so he couldn't tell him shit. So if you read that passage, you'll see where God is kind of tiptoeing around it and being very metaphorical and using examples, and he's talking about the end of the world after Jesus comes. But this is thousands of years before Jesus was even born. He ends up highlighting all the issues that will eventually lead to the necessity of Jesus of Nazareth. And after that, he says, after this series of events takes place, the world will finally rest. It's important to remember that this prophet had been talking to God for months. He was in the wilderness praying, doing all that stuff, and he finally gets to talk to God one-on-one. And after a while in the conversation, you can read, you can almost hear where the dots connect in this prophet's head, and he realizes, oh, I can just ask God anything right now. And all the questions that you would want to ask God if you were just chilling on your porch one day and he showed up and you're like, why are snowflakes different? Why is the world a sphere and not an octagon? All the questions come to his head, and he tries to narrow down all the big ones. Hence the Messiah, hence the state of Israel, and hence the redemption cycle. Anyway, the passage in this conversation that lives in my head rent-free and replays over and over and over is the part where God tells this prophet, and I quote, "When the earth has had its fill of souls, the world will finally rest." And then the prophet goes, well, bring about all the souls now. Put all the souls you have designed already that you want to exist on the earth, put them all on the earth now so they can live a full life and we can get this shit show over with. And then God says, okay, go into the nearest village, find a mother, and tell her to have all the children she will ever have in her entire life today. And then the prophet goes, well, that's ridiculous. The implications there keep me up at night. Excuse me, souls? The number? There's a number of souls that have to exist. I was just reading Matthew, and Jesus said, he who loses his family, his mother, his brother, his wife, his son, his daughter, whoever loses that on earth for my sake will gain that sevenfold in heaven. There we go again. Calm down. Where do souls come from? It's come to my attention that I can't really talk about this topic without, referring to predestination. I don't believe in predestination. I believe in a father who has many sons. Favoritism. God gives us conflicts in our lives to overcome, and he gives us people in our families to overcome. Not everybody's a good egg. Sometimes he already knows it. But the question has always remained the same. How will you harvest the crops? Pluck them out before they grow. Wait for them all to grow and then beat the shit out of them until the chaff floats away. How many seeds were planted? How many seeds will come from the crops that were planted on this world? Oh, I'm sorry, field, this field, yeah. There's an undercurrent here that I don't really want to say, but I think if you've watched this far, you know the topic I'm also thinking about here. I don't want to say what it is, but I will say Satan seems to think he can cheat the method and math of God by shortening the lifespan of certain people. Kind of like how he had to cut Jesus' life short several times. Have you ever heard of someone referred to as an old soul? Poor dude wasn't meant to live in this generation. What if he wasn't? What if there are people in this world who are meant to live earlier in life, but they were not born yet because of their family? Their family either chose not to have kids, or a little motherfucker called Satan tried to cheat that family and take a soul out of circulation of the bloodline by messing up that marriage? What if the end game of every marital conflict and every parental or coupling conflict was Satan trying to prevent certain people from being born? Let's see. Margaret will marry Matthew, and then Matthew and Margaret will have 6 children. Those 6 children will produce 9 children. 3 generations later, a man named Bartholomew will be born, and he will cause my kingdom great contempt. I will cause Matthew to fall into financial disrepair. He will flow far away from his bride, and they will never have the correct number of children, and then the algebra will be messed up forever. I have a GED. This is usually the little caveat in every story or every kind of theological conundrum that crosses my brain that gets me really excited, because my God doesn't play those fucking games. God's like, oh, look, you cheated again. I write the rules, motherfucker. In that fictional little story I made up, God would have just taken the soul of Bartholomew out of that family, waited a century or two, and then put him back in circulation. In theory. But wouldn't that make sense? On that note, the human population is starting to slow the fuck down. Stop cursing, Cutter, stop cursing. I keep thinking about the passage in, I believe it's Revelation, that says, the end times are quickened by the prayers of the saints. Someone's praying for kids. The children of God reproduce. The Catholic Church does not make saints. There's another passage, I think it's also in Revelation, and it says that the saints and the virgins sit at the throne, the foot of the throne of God, and they cry up to God, how much longer must we wait? Nobody talked about this shit when I was in church, because you can't talk about that without talking about, I think about all the education that I missed. I've done my homework, but never quite like this. Oh, I want it bad, I want it bad, I want it bad. Hot for the teacher. I'm trying so hard to be calm right now. Have you ever been sent to some task that you hate miserably and you just piss off the entire time, and you have all this time to do it, and you have all this work to do, but ironically, when you have 5 minutes left until the deadline, all you want is time. You just want more time to fuck around and piss off, because you know when the deadline comes and your work is brought forth and all the lack of work and nonsense you didn't do is brought forth to the court, it's your ass. I'm pretty sure that's how Satan feels more and more every day. I want my kingdom to last, and for that to happen, it can only be on this world, and the children of God can't keep fighting. I'm just imagining the situation where Satan is trying to prevent the children of God from making whoopee, and God's like, yeah, you keep trying that, because this is round 1 of 2, motherfucker. And wouldn't it be poetic justice if it turned out that this round was like the handicap round for him? Like, in the same way God can displace a soul, God can displace an entire lifeline. Satan tried to prevent a prosperous life cycle in this world, so God literally just postponed that for another world that will come eventually, where we get to do all this shit again on his terms. Have fun with that.